The majority of individuals don't fail because of insufficient strength or capability. Rather, they falter due to their inability to manage their feelings when facing opposition. Consider a recent occasion where someone with complete accuracy lost a debate despite having every fact aligned correctly. Their reasoning was flawless, their evidence impeccable, yet when stress arrived, everything crumbled. Their pitch escalated, gestures became frantic and chaotic, and suddenly their credibility vanished entirely. Each conflict encountered serves as an examination, though not of intellectual capacity or factual knowledge, but rather of self-mastery. The question becomes whether composure can be maintained while ideas face assault, whether clear thinking persists despite a racing pulse, and whether tranquil speech continues when internal forces demand eruption. Success in these moments extends beyond merely winning debates. It cultivates respect, builds confidence, and establishes authority. The philosopher Machiavelli recognized what countless others overlook even today, that true influence doesn't rest with whoever makes the most noise, but with those who remain composed while chaos surrounds them. Through extensive observation of rulers and political figures, witnessing kingdoms emerge and collapse, he uncovered a harsh reality that without self-governance, nothing external can be controlled. Understanding how to remain unshakable during any conflict, recognizing how physical responses betray intentions instantly, learning how others assess situations before words are spoken, and transforming pressure into strategic advantage forms the foundation of genuine power. Before proceeding further, internalize this declaration completely and repeat it with conviction. Remaining unshaken defines personal strength. This statement carries profound significance that transcends any verbal argument imaginable, and by comprehending its depth, transformation becomes inevitable. The fundamental misconception plaguing most individuals involves believing that confrontations are conquered through perfect phrasing. Preparation focuses on crafting defenses, organizing evidence, arranging logical arguments like arsenal weapons, then delivering supposedly flawless responses when opportunities arise. Yet observers remain unmoved because during heated exchanges, attention doesn't focus on verbal content as anticipated. Instead, observation centers on visual cues, interpreting countless subtle signals transmitted physically. Voice stability, facial tranquility, breath regulation. These elements trigger instantaneous judgments regarding credibility, strength versus vulnerability. Machiavelli articulated that humanity governs itself through perception equally with actuality, meaning appearances carry identical weight to truth itself. Physical presentation during conflict matches the importance of correctness. Observing two arguing parties reveals this principle clearly when one possesses complete accuracy, yet exhibits trembling speech, averted gaze, and restless movements, while the other holds partial correctness but demonstrates serenity, deliberate pacing, and maintained eye contact. The composed individual prevails mentally every instance because tranquility projects dependability, suggesting hidden knowledge and mastery, whereas anxiety projects frailty, implying concealment and self-doubt. Truth can reside entirely on one side, yet defeat still occurs through uncontrolled presentation. Therefore, preparation extends beyond content planning to encompass behavioral presence. When challenges emerge, the primary responsibility isn't defending positions, but maintaining stability. Tonal calmness establishes credibility without requiring perfect answers, as patience naturally extends toward composed individuals who receive doubt's benefit, while panicked responses receive none. People willingly wait for tranquil speakers to articulate thoughts and grant them assumptions of good faith. But patience evaporates instantly when confronting someone exhibiting panic symptoms. This dynamic proves particularly evident in professional environments where stakes run high and impressions solidify quickly. Employment interviews exemplify this principle beautifully. Unexpected, difficult questions present two pathways forward. The first involves surrendering to panic, accelerating speech, stumbling through phrases, desperately filling silence with anything available while pitch rises and connection visibly deteriorates. The second pathway involves pausing deliberately, controlling breathing, maintaining eye contact, acknowledging the question's quality, and requesting a thoughtful moment before responding calmly. The version securing employment isn't distinguished by superior answers but by commanding presence. This dynamic applies universally across romantic disagreements, professional discussions with supervisors, public criticism scenarios, and family tensions. Verbal content carries less significance than behavioral presence. Logical reasoning matters less than maintained composure. Steadiness cultivates trust even amid disagreement, controls environments without possessing complete answers, while nervousness broadcasts doubt. Establishing reliability through composure creates foundations for influence that extend far beyond single conversations or isolated incidents. When consistency and calmness becomes recognizable as a personal trademark, others begin anticipating stability and seeking guidance during their own turbulent moments. This reputation becomes invaluable currency in professional advancement, relationship building, and leadership development. Conversely, establishing patterns of emotional volatility creates expectations of unreliability that become extraordinarily difficult to overcome, regardless of subsequent behavioral improvements. First impressions and consistent patterns create mental frameworks that observers use to predict future behavior, making initial composure cultivation critically important for long-term success trajectories. The body functions as a billboard advertising internal conditions, and despite verbal claims, physical truth cannot be concealed. Claiming wellness while trembling hands and darting eyes contradict statements destroys believability instantly. Within 3 seconds, most people decode physical messages accurately. Quivering extremities signal anxiety, restless vision indicates insecurity, hurried vocalization reveals panic, and crossed limbs demonstrate defensiveness. Every motion, postural adjustment, and tonal variation gets detected and utilized for respect or dismissal decisions. Machiavelli observed that humanity judges more through vision than action, meaning observed composure outweighs verbal arguments. Remaining unshaken requires prioritizing physical control because mental states follow bodily conditions rather than reverse sequences. Most people misunderstand this directionality, assuming mental calmness will automatically calm bodies. However, during confrontations, nervous systems activate immediately, making thought-based calming comparable to halting freight trains mentally. Controlling physical responses sends signals to brains suggesting reduced danger, allowing minds to follow 3 immediately controllable factors. Respiratory patterns change under stress, becoming rapid and shallow with chest-based breathing that signals danger and survival mode activation. This deactivates prefrontal cortexes responsible for logic and reasoning, while amygdalas handling fear assume command, explaining why foolish statements emerge during arguments as frightened rather than intelligent brain regions dominate. When heat rises, deliberately slowing respiration through nasal inhalation and oral exhalation, emphasizing abdominal rather than thoracic breathing, reduces heart rates and communicates safety to brains, restoring clear thinking capacity. Practicing this technique during calm moments creates muscle memory that becomes accessible during stress, making deliberate breath control feel natural rather than forced when pressure arrives unexpectedly. Postural control matters equally, requiring standing or sitting with controlled authority without arrogance, just solidity. Standing positions demand planted feet at shoulder width without weight shifting, while seated positions require upright spines with relaxed yet not slumped shoulders. Maintaining visible, motionless hands without fidgeting with objects, tapping fingers, or arm crossing eliminates unnecessary movements, broadcasting nervousness, making steadiness visible to observers while convincing brains of actual calmness. Physical positioning sends powerful messages not only to external observers, but also to internal psychological states. Adopting powerful postures actually increases testosterone and decreases cortisol levels, creating biochemical changes that support confident feelings and decision-making capabilities. This means that even when confidence feels absent initially, adopting confident physical positioning can generate authentic confidence through physiological pathways. The connection between body and mind operates bidirectionally, meaning that just as mental states influence physical presentation actively shapes mental and emotional experiences. Leveraging this relationship strategically transforms physical positioning from passive consequence into active tool for emotional regulation and impression management. Vocal control represents the third critical element because nervousness or anger accelerates speech, raises pitch, and creates irregular volume fluctuations. Attempting to express everything before courage fails causes voice changes that immediately destroy trust. Deliberate deceleration to 70% of normal speaking pace, slightly lowered pitch, and consistent volume maintenance becomes essential. Necessary pauses should occur without filling gaps with verbal fillers or anxious laughter, allowing silence to exist powerfully. Silence generates discomfort in others, prompting them to fill voids through speech, which returns control naturally. Calm, measured vocalization commands attention, suggesting hidden knowledge. Most fail to realize that tranquil body language not only projects strength but causes others to question their own agitation. When composure persists during another's shouting, strange mental phenomena occur in aggressors who feel unbalanced by energy that doesn't receive expected reactions. Anticipated reciprocal intensity fails to materialize, triggering self-questioning about disproportionate emotional investment and whether calm parties possess unknown information. Suddenly, moral high ground gets captured without voice elevation. Machiavelli understood that situational control belongs to those controlling themselves, as power derives from presence rather than aggression. When aggressive approaches and tension spikes occur, remembering to slow breathing, steady posture, and measure voice creates body mastery that minds follow, and when both are mastered, unshakeability becomes permanent. This mastery doesn't develop overnight, but through consistent practice in progressively challenging situations, building capacity gradually until composure under pressure becomes automatic rather than effortful. Discussing personal offense reveals critical vulnerabilities. Criticism or competence questioning triggers immediate chest sensations of heat, defensiveness, and indignant internal voices. From that instant, clear thinking ceases, replaced by reactive defense protecting egos instead of solving problems, which guarantees defeat. Personal interpretation eliminates strategic thinking, forward planning, and broader perspective recognition, creating focus solely on immediate victory regardless of future costs. Detachment becomes a superpower in these moments, not through apathy, but by preventing emotional hijacking during critical thinking periods. Stepping back momentarily, even mid-confrontation, transforms perspectives from victim to observer. Machiavelli stated that wise individuals act according to necessity rather than feelings, prioritizing required actions for desired outcomes over ego satisfaction or emotional relief. Usually this means maintaining calmness, preserving detachment, and responding intelligently rather than emotionally. During meetings where weeks of project work face presentation and someone named David publicly dismantles ideas by claiming unrealistic impracticality based on past failures, two choices emerge. Taking it personally generates defensiveness with tightened voices, insisting that thorough proposal reading addresses concerns and dismissing historical comparisons, creating room tension and discomfort that provokes David to double down despite potential correctness, making emotional inability to handle criticism apparent. This path leads nowhere productive, damages professional reputation, strains working relationships, and ensures future interactions begin with defensive expectations rather than collaborative possibilities. Alternatively, detachment recognizes David's comments as information rather than personal attacks. Whether concerns hold validity or reflect difficulty becomes irrelevant because ego defense isn't the purpose. Optimal decision-making is. Pausing, nodding, acknowledging point fairness, and inquiring about specific concerns for deeper exploration produces dramatically different results. Tension dissipates, reasonableness becomes visible, and David either properly explains concerns that improve ideas or retreats due to lacking solid reasoning. Victory arrives not through combat but through detachment. The distinction becomes clear when comparing acting on feelings with defensive, attacked emotional responses against acting according to necessity with strategic, calm, outcome-focused approaches. Detachment additionally prevents regrettable statements. Countless harsh remarks delivered during heated moments create days of wishing for retraction opportunities. This occurs through lack of detachment, being consumed by emotions desiring harm, victory, and retaliation. Once articulated, words cannot be recalled or erased, making emotional control during conflict absolutely essential for long-term success and relationship preservation. Developing detachment requires recognizing that criticism, even harsh or unfair criticism, provides valuable information about others' perspectives, concerns, and potential obstacles to goals. Viewing criticism through this analytical lens rather than emotional one transforms threatening situations into learning opportunities. Each confrontation becomes chance to practice emotional regulation, gather intelligence about opposition, and demonstrate character strength that builds lasting credibility. The individuals who master detachment find that conflicts decrease over time because their reputation for reasonableness precedes them, causing others to approach interactions more constructively from the outset. Meanwhile, those who consistently react emotionally find conflicts escalating and multiplying as others anticipate dramatic reactions and either avoid them entirely or engage combatively from the start. The choice between these paths gets made repeatedly in small moments throughout every day, and cumulative effects of consistent detachment versus consistent reactivity compound dramatically over months and years, ultimately determining whether influence expands or contracts over time. Understanding these principles transforms confrontations from threats into opportunities for demonstrating strength, building credibility, and establishing lasting influence through unwavering composure regardless of external pressure or internal turmoil that inevitably accompanies challenging human interactions. Expressing regret or providing justifications afterward carries no power to reverse harm already inflicted. Once consequences materialize, no amount of verbal remediation restores original conditions. Separation from immediate emotional involvement provides crucial breathing room, creating mental distance necessary for thoughtful consideration. This mental spacing allows careful word selection and enables asking critical questions about whether pending statements serve long-range interests or inflict self-sabotage. Overwhelmingly, impulsive reactions damage rather than benefit, making silence preferable to reflexive speech. Instead of surrendering to emotional impulses, intelligent responses keep discussions focused on actual objectives while maintaining awareness of ultimate goals. Initial attempts at emotional separation require tremendous conscious effort, demanding active self-reminders to retreat mentally, regulate breathing, and resist interpreting challenges as personal affronts. However, sustained practice gradually transforms this deliberate process into instinctive behavior. Eventually, recognition arrives instantaneously when feelings intensify, enabling intervention before reactive patterns engage. Creating brief intervals for assessment, those microscopic gaps separating external triggers from behavioral responses, represents the exact location where genuine strength resides. Within these precious moments, victimhood disappears completely, blind reactions cease, and intentional selection of appropriate responses becomes possible. This element of choice signifies authentic mastery because deliberate selection of responses rather than automatic reactions demonstrates true command of situations. Personal sovereignty exists exclusively within this space where conscious decisions replace mechanical reactions. Consider scenarios where someone publicly questions intelligence or delivers disrespectful treatment before audiences. Natural impulses scream for immediate retaliation, demanding defensive counterattacks, proving accusers wrong while inflicting equivalent pain. Yet maintaining emotional distance enables alternative interpretation of identical situations. Recognition emerges that provocation serves as the attacker's actual goal, that they actively seek to trigger control loss and reputation damage. Meeting expectations through predicted reactions delivers precisely what antagonists desire, making non-reaction the superior strategy. Alternatively, responding with such profound tranquility that attackers feel disoriented accomplishes even more. Acknowledging their perspective with appreciation before smoothly transitioning forward as though comments carried zero impact demonstrates extraordinary strength. This approach reverses power dynamics completely because now attackers appear aggressive, emotionally unstable, and desperate while targets appear absolutely immovable. Machiavelli comprehended that whoever governs their internal emotional landscape simultaneously governs external outcomes. Distance from emotional entanglement creates mental clarity. Clarity produces superior decisions, and superior decisions generate preferable results. When confrontations arrive and internal temperature rises alongside defensive urges, conscious breathing combined with mental retreat enables objective observation. Viewing situations accurately rather than through distorted emotional lenses allows responses driven by strategic necessity rather than feeling-based impulses. This represents the pathway to remaining perpetually unshaken, regardless of external pressures. Emotional mastery isn't innate talent, but developed skill. Requiring consistent practice and dedication, tranquility transforms from merely defensive posture into offensive strategic weapon when properly understood. During heated escalations, composure creates stark contrast against surrounding chaos. Everyone else elevates vocal volume, surrenders to feelings, interrupts constantly, and generates disordered energy throughout spaces. Meanwhile, one individual remains serene, stable, and refuses contributing additional noise. Instantly, this person becomes the gravitational center, commanding different quality of attention, not through volume but through quietness amid cacophony. This dynamic initiates leverage accumulation. Calmness surrounded by turmoil causes unconscious following behavior in others who instinctively lower their voices, matching quieter tones, decelerate their pacing, and seek direction alongside stability and reassurance from composed individuals. The tranquil person transforms into the anchor, providing steadiness, appearing completely controlled even when others hold superior formal positions, greater age, or more extensive experience. None of these traditional authority markers matter because in critical moments, genuine authority belongs exclusively to whoever demonstrates least disturbance. This principle reflects pure Machiavellian understanding that authentic authority never derives from titles but gets claimed by whoever commands most powerful presence. Romantic disagreements exemplify this perfectly. When maintaining composure while partners experience upset positions, the calm individual is reasonable regardless of fault distribution. Family conflicts where steady voices persist while others shout establishes the composed person as the solution source everyone consults. Workplace disputes handled with equanimity, while colleagues panic signals leadership capability to supervisors evaluating promotion potential. These patterns repeat across infinite contexts with remarkable consistency. Understanding this dynamic doesn't constitute manipulation, but rather reflects accurate comprehension of human reality. People naturally gravitate toward stability, especially when environments deteriorate, seeking individuals who appear unaffected and seem to possess clarity about forward movement. Becoming that stabilizing presence grants influence previously unavailable. And crucially, this influence doesn't require possessing all answers, demonstrating superior intelligence, or even being factually correct. Only composure is required because tranquility creates competence illusions, causing observers to attribute greater capability than possibly exists in specific moments. Once this perception establishes itself, deference naturally follows as people solicit opinions, seek approvals, and transfer decision-making authority. This represents leverage in its truest form, not for manipulative exploitation, but for positioning oneself advantageously to guide outcomes benefiting all parties involved. With leverage comes ability to de-escalate tensions and propose solutions that emotional participants would reject if suggested by someone equally agitated. Statements suggesting collective pausing and alternative approaches actually receive consideration because the speaker clearly isn't contributing to problems but offering solutions. Machiavelli wrote extensively regarding perception's relationship with power, recognizing that perceived attributes frequently outweigh actual conditions in importance. Princes appearing strong are treated as strong despite struggling kingdoms, and leaders appearing calm receive trust despite internal uncertainty. This doesn't represent dishonesty but acknowledges human nature's foundation, where decisions emerge from observations and feelings rather than purely factual analysis. Strategic understanding of these psychological realities separates effective operators from those perpetually confused about why their correctness fails to convince others. Visual perceptions of calmness communicate strength, confidence, and control, prompting authority assignments even when formal authority was previously absent. Arguments with cherished individuals like romantic partners, closest friends, or siblings that escalate toward hurtful exchanges present critical choice points. Desires to reciprocate pain through equally harmful statements arise powerfully. Yet maintaining tranquility while listening attentively without interruptions or voice elevation produces remarkable effects. Initially, agitated parties may continue pushing boundaries and escalating intensity, but sustained calmness eventually impacts them profoundly. Discomfort develops from being the sole emotional participant, gradually triggering their own de-escalation. Once both parties achieve calmness, authentic, productive conversation finally becomes possible where actual problem resolution replaces mutual harm. This exemplifies leverage functioning collaboratively rather than dominantly. Composure doesn't merely provide personal protection, but fundamentally alters entire interaction dynamics, transforming tense situations into leadership opportunities that guide towards superior outcomes. When environments feel overheated, emotions run excessively high, and circumstances seem uncontrollable. Avoiding fire contribution by embodying calm within storms causes others to rapidly identify the composed individual as the person everyone instinctively seeks for guidance and direction. This natural human tendency toward seeking stability during chaos creates predictable patterns that can be leveraged ethically for collective benefit. The individual who recognizes and utilizes these patterns positions themselves for maximum positive impact during critical moments, when others feel most vulnerable and uncertain about proper courses of action. Everything previously discussed converges around consistency as the ultimate differentiator between momentary effectiveness and lasting untouchable status. Demonstrating composure once during a single meeting, argument, or confrontational incident produces positive immediate effects as observers note capable handling and continue forward. However, maintaining composure consistently across all situations over extended timeframes creates entirely different reputational dynamics. Isolated calmness gets dismissed as coincidental good moods or low personal investment, denying credit and failing to alter fundamental perceptions. Conversely, unwavering tranquility displayed repeatedly during every difficulty, challenge, and pressure situation causes observers to assign defining labels. The label unshakeable carries transformative power once it adheres permanently to someone's reputation. Reputations established through consistency provide protection operating through mechanisms often invisible to those they shield. When reputations for pressure-resistant composure solidify, pressure attempts cease because potential antagonists recognize futility. They understand voice elevation won't create rattling effects, aggressive tactics will fail, threats prove meaningless, and emotional manipulation generates no movement whatsoever. Consequently, energy previously devoted to such tactics gets redirected as approaches shift toward respectful, professionalism, and optimal behavior because antagonists recognize these as the exclusive pathways for productive engagement. Calmness evolves into protective shielding that filters nonsense automatically before it reaches intended targets. This filtering effect saves enormous energy previously wasted, deflecting inappropriate behavior or recovering from unnecessary conflicts. Reflecting on acquaintances who never lose composure regardless of circumstances reveals how such individuals receive treatment characterized by carefulness and respect. Everyone recognizes these people won't react according to typical patterns, prompting adjusted approach strategies. Conversely, individuals frequently erupting emotionally and losing control consistently receive cautious treatment lacking respect. They're perceived as unpredictable and unreliable, people others prefer avoiding entirely. These contrasting responses demonstrate reputation's decisive impact. Machiavelli understood consistency separates respected leaders from forgotten figures. Princes who alternate unpredictably between cruelty and mercy create confusion, preventing clear expectations. Unpredictability destroys trust because people cannot anticipate behavior patterns. However, princes demonstrating consistent measurement, firmness, and calmness provide absolute behavioral predictability. This predictability constructs trust foundations because even when specific decisions prove unpopular, consistent character earns respect. Identical principles apply universally when consistent calmness teaches observers that tranquility represents fundamental character rather than temporary mood or isolated incident. This character-level identification creates permanent association that shapes every subsequent interaction, establishing foundations for influence, respect, and authority that compound continuously over time, ultimately rendering the consistently composed individual essentially untouchable within their personal and professional spheres of influence. Building this reputation requires patience and unwavering commitment to behavioral standards even when immediate rewards seem absent, trusting that cumulative effects will eventually produce dividends far exceeding any short-term satisfaction derived from emotional indulgence or reactive behavior patterns that feel momentarily justified but ultimately undermine long-term strategic positioning and relational capital. When composure becomes embedded within fundamental character traits, it transforms into core identity that others recognize immediately. Introductions carry specific descriptions highlighting unflappable nature, suggesting colleagues meet particular individuals because nothing disturbs their equilibrium. Professional environments reinforce these patterns when crises emerge, and specific names get mentioned as essential presence because panic never touches them. Such reputations unlock opportunities, generate invitations, and make others eagerly desire collaboration, partnership, and leadership from these individuals. Universal preference exists for working alongside people who maintain structural integrity during difficulties, rather than collapsing under strain. However, brutal honesty demands acknowledgement that constructing such standing requires substantial temporal investment and unwavering behavioral uniformity. Maintaining serenity for limited periods, then erupting explosively toward someone destroys reputational foundations instantly. Single significant control failures erase months of disciplined conduct because human cognitive systems prioritize remembering dramatic episodes over steady calmness. Memory architecture emphasizes outliers, theatrical moments, and uncharacteristic actions, meaning reputation construction demands total commitment, transcending convenient circumstances or limited time frames. This doesn't prohibit experiencing emotions entirely, as frustration, disappointment, and upset remain valid human experiences. The distinction lies in preventing emotions from dictating external presentation and behavioral choices. Feelings deserve acknowledgement and internal processing without permitting them to govern immediate responses or situational conduct. Maintaining calm speech, clear thinking, and solid presence despite internal emotional weather creates compounding consistency effects over extended periods. Each occasion where expected emotional breakdown gets replaced with maintained composure strengthens reputational foundations incrementally. Every crisis handled with equanimity deepens trust reserves others hold. Every refusal to accept disturbance adds protective barriers around established identity. Eventually, these accumulated defenses achieve such fortitude that nothing penetrates successfully. Early relationship phases frequently involve testing behaviors, particularly from individuals accustomed to witnessing others fracture under pressure. They intensify challenges deliberately, attempting provocation to determine authenticity versus performance. Successfully passing these evaluative moments by sustaining unshakable presence through every test causes testing behaviors to cease entirely. Acceptance arrives that composure represents genuine character rather than temporary facade, prompting behavioral adjustments from others accordingly. This milestone represents victory transcending individual confrontations to win extended strategic contests. Battle frequency diminishes dramatically because reputation handles combat independently. Initial interactions begin from respectful foundations without intimidation attempts, manipulative games, or dramatic time wasting. Rare instances where challenges materialize find surrounding observers already aligned supportively because your established character makes problem attribution to you implausible. Machiavelli proposed that being feared surpasses being loved when both prove unattainable. Yet third options exist through becoming unshakable. Unshakable individuals don't inspire fear precisely nor attract love necessarily, but command profound respect universally. Respect carries greater value than fear or affection, because durability distinguishes it fundamentally. Fear dissipates during unobserved moments, while love evaporates when emotional states shift. But respect toward those never breaking persists indefinitely regardless of circumstances. If singular takeaway emerges from these concepts, understand that tranquility transcends tactical application to constitute identity itself. Constructing this identity through consistent application over time elevates existence beyond merely surviving confrontations toward rising completely above them. Authentic strength during conflicts doesn't manifest through volume levels, dominance displays, vocal intensity, or comeback sharpness. Instead, steadiness defines genuine power. Trust erodes rapidly from individuals unable to maintain personal cohesion. Observing someone trembling with cracking voice and spilling emotions triggers thoughts that important responsibilities cannot be entrusted to such people. Conversely, witnessing someone maintaining calmness without flinching who preserves composure while others disintegrate inspires following behavior, respect, and occasionally fear. This fear doesn't stem from aggressive conduct but from appearing completely untouchable. Machiavelli's teaching remains elegantly simple, that self-control establishes situational control as direct consequence. Mastering respiratory patterns, physical positioning, and vocal delivery enables room mastery simultaneously. Detaching from emotional hijacking while acting strategically secures long-term victories. Consistent calmness builds protective reputations with permanent endurance. This represents practical reality rather than theoretical abstraction regarding power's actual operational mechanisms. The perpetually unshaken individual needs neither supreme intelligence, physical strength, nor extensive experience. They require only the characteristic of never fracturing under pressure. Over time, this singular attribute becomes comprehensively determinative of outcomes and opportunities. Arguments get won through untouchable presence rather than volume elevation. Initial practice should focus on minor moments like traffic interruptions, colleague irritability, or family provocations. Maintaining calm responses, deliberate breathing, steady speech, and emotional detachment during these small instances builds foundational skills progressively. Each successful application strengthens both capabilities and reputation while constructing identity frameworks. Eventually, this becomes intrinsic character rather than situational behavior, representing authentic identity across all contexts without exception. Achieving this transformation establishes genuinely unshaken existence as permanent state. Those finding resonance with these principles should share insights with others requiring this understanding. Continuing education about power dynamics, composure maintenance, and strategic thinking develops comprehensive mastery. Final reinforcement deserves repetition with full conviction that nothing possesses capacity to create movement or disturbance. This declaration demands genuine belief, active living, and complete embodiment. Unshaken status now exists not as aspiration but as present reality requiring only consistent demonstration through behavior proving claims authentically. The journey from reactive emotional patterns to unshakable composure represents one of life's most valuable transformations, impacting every relationship, professional opportunity, and personal challenge encountered throughout existence. Committing to this path with full awareness that results accumulate gradually through countless small victories rather than dramatic singular moments prepares practitioners for sustained effort required. Ultimate rewards justify every disciplined choice made along the way as influence expands, respect deepens, and opportunities multiply exponentially over years of consistent demonstration that composure defines character completely.